women's feet are more pie-shaped than men's feet. So it's not that our foot is wider, it's that the ratio of our forefoot to our ankle or our heel is a
Yeah.
bigger ratio than a man's foot, which is more
So it's like
rectangular.
by your toes, like underneath your
Yeah,
toes is wider than your heel.
your heel. Yes.
Welcome to the Advanced Women's Health Podcast, where we empower women with the latest insights and advice on holistic health. From cutting-edge medical research to practical wellness tips, our mission is to help you thrive at every stage of life. Join us as we explore topics ranging from hormonal balance and reproductive health to nutrition and mental well-being. Whether you're seeking solutions for a specific health concern or simply want to enhance your overall wellness, you're in the right place. Let's embark on this journey to better health together. This is the Advanced Women's Health Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Advanced Women's Health Podcast. I am so excited today to dive into a brand I first found out about, I guess, a year and a half ago, and was just so fascinating to me to understand women's health in so many ways in my day-to-day life. To not understand this one aspect was such a huge wake-up call. So I'm so excited for everyone to hear more about the female foot, right? What we need, what's different, and your founder journey as well. So welcome, Lindsay from Hettas. I am so excited to chat today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Really excited to chat all things health and feet, one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, so why don't we start there? Give us a bit of a background on what got you into this desire to understand the female foot and build a business around it.
The female foot specifically was around my own feet issues. I'm a very active person. I like to say I'm a lifelong recreational athlete. I play sports or I'm active 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had bunions, but they never were a problem. And then in my
Mm-hmm.
40s, they started being a problem. And, you do the orthotic thing and you go to the podiatrist. And then
Yeah.
I developed a more significant foot problem a few years after I'd started that journey and went from being able to walk for however long I wanted or going to do classes to basically limping out of a HIIT class or only being
Wow.
able to walk 20 minutes without metatarsal pain, the front part of your foot.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? Like there's obviously hormonal changes in your 40s. I was in perimenopause. At that time, that even wasn't a word, which was crazy. I feel like
Yeah.
perimenopause really became more known in the last 3, 4 years. But at this time, it
It's
was like,
changed so much.
it's
Yeah.
changed everything's changed so much. And it made me want to learn more about what I was putting on my feet because I started getting really worried that if I was in this much pain at 42, 43,
Yeah.
what was this going to look like in my 50s, 60s, 70s? Like I planned to be active as long as I possibly could be. And I just started being like, this might not be possible. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can we selfishly stop there for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because my friend went to an osteo and they said, you're developing bunions because she had toe pain.
Yeah.
So I teased her about being old. And then we just did the Advanced Women's Health Challenge at the time of this recording. It just finished up and it's over 10,000 steps a day. Didn't I get metatarsal pain? Got crazy toe pain. I started KT taping my foot.
Oh
It's
my
KT taped
gosh.
right now. I've been looking into all different brands of like wide-toed shoes, wearing sandals, being mindful of
Yes.
socks, all
Yes.
these types of things. So now I'm like, I teased her and now I'm dealing with this. And I'm going through the same thing in my head. I've spent hundreds of dollars looking at different like shoes, options, orthotics, all these different things because I am very active. I walk all the time. I
Yes.
like to be very active. So can you take me through what that journey looked like for you in terms of investigating that? Because it's a personal issue right now. And I just like
Yeah.
really need to.
I've always had what my husband jokingly refers to as my medical team. So I've done regular chiropractor, I see an osteopath, and was just like, what is going on with this foot? And I mean, the foot that is having problems is one that I broke when I was a teenager in the early 90s. Your parents didn't take
Yeah.
you to physio. Like, your foot's
No.
broke, like you dealt with that, and then it was back to playing volleyball or whatever. So it never healed properly. And it was also an ankle that I sprained that, again, when I was 13, no proper physio. And so we were trying to unpack what was related to it. Went to a podiatrist. They're like, oh, you need a metatarsal pad, invested $1,000 in orthotics. The orthotics actually made my foot worse and hurt more. So then, and just the time and effort, like, when I have 2 kids, life is busy between family, work, and now I'm trying to layer in all these appointments to diagnose my foot. Then I started buying different shoes. Okay, well, maybe it's the shoes that I'm wearing. I'm going to try this brand. I'm going to try that, same as you. Probably all in all, I would guess that it took sort of 2 years worth of investigation and a few $1,000s to still not have any answers. And
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
And so where did that take you into the next step of Hettas?
I was getting near the end of my rope with it. And at that time, my husband, he's still CEO at Native Shoes, which is a Canadian footwear brand focused on more recreational footwear. And one of the board members there spent his career in athletic footwear development, has 4 daughters, 2 granddaughters, very active wife. And Kyle just kept saying, we'll have Doug make you a pair of shoes. And I was just like, why is Doug just going to make shoes for me? That seems silly. Like, if he's going to make shoes for me, we should make shoes for more people, because I'm not the only one that's going to need these shoes. So I finally had a conversation with Doug, and he's like, well, Lindsay, you're just wearing shoes made for men. And that just blew my mind. I'm like, why would I put things on my feet that did not consider my anatomy? And, then I was thinking about my body and my body's journey over its lifespan, hormonal changes. I chose to have children. So pregnancy, postpartum, now I'm going through perimenopause and the menopause, and like all the things that have shifted. And I'm like, well, my hips are wider, my center of gravity is probably lowered, like my feet are behaving differently. And then I look at my husband, who looks structurally like he did in his 20s, and I'm like, well, his body's not changing. So why are we basing what I'm putting on my feet on an anatomy that is completely different?
Yeah.
And it was more than just, it was like not just about women, but like about, we need to understand how women's bodies change. And then what adaptations do you need to make for your footwear? We all know, well, maybe we don't all know, but one of like the greatest risks as you age is actually falling. And if your feet, which are the foundation of your body, are causing you pain or imbalance, it's actually going to impact your longevity, even if you were not someone that was into sport. So it made me really angry that it was
all good things come from female anger.
Yeah, I was just, and then I was thinking, I wouldn't wear men's clothes. And then I started thinking about sports. I'm a really big skier. I would not wear men's skis. Then I was thinking about how I have to get my ski boots custom fit to my feet. And I'm like, oh, this is an equipment problem that exists.
Well, and like shoes we wear all the time. Like skiing, you're on the slopes, and we take more time and attention for, I don't know, a couple hundred hours in our life. You know what I mean? Depending on how avid you are. Than walking all day.
Than your day-to-day shoes that you're putting on, and then I started thinking my daughter's feet. So I have twins. At the time, they were 8 when we started this journey. Now they're 13, and they have become extremely competitive dancers over that. Like, that is their sport of choice. And I think about their feet, and I was thinking about, like, all the care we're putting in to their dance shoes. And then I was putting care into their ski boots because I was worried about their feet. And I was like, wait a minute, what about the shoes they're wearing to school? And keeping their feet healthy so that they can continue to pursue their sport of choice. And you're right, we don't think about it. We're just like, oh, we go buy shoes, we put them on, it's good enough. And that good enough is just keeps us going.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So then what do we need to know about the female foot? What did you learn in that journey? I would love
Yeah.
to know.
I mean, the first thing I learned is we don't know enough. Like, there is
Mhm.
just an overwhelming lack of information on female anatomy, physiology as it relates to sport.
Right. As it relates to anything. There was a
Anything.
study. You will appreciate this the other day. I had a tantrum. So there was a study done that took, I don't know, 100,000 people to prove that 7,000 steps was as good from a health perspective as 10,000 steps. We are willing to spend money to tell people they can
What
be
the right amount of
lazy,
steps are.
but we are not willing to spend money to tell people that they need a different type of shoe to get those steps in.
Yeah.
Like for women, that was insane to me. Like insane. I had a tantrum online about it because I was like, how are we spending money on this? But something that can impact someone's life in its entirety, their
Yeah.
foot, pain, endo, like so many things we could dedicate research to, but we choose to spend our money to normalize less activity.
No, so one of the first, we partnered with Simon Fraser University. I wanted to make
Mhm.
sure we were doing research with an objective third party. I wanted it to be published. So it's not
Yeah.
that we're the only shoe brand doing out there doing research. The big brands all have very large R&D departments. What they're not necessarily doing is publishing what they're learning to increase
Yeah.
the knowledge base. They're looking at it more as a competitive advantage, maybe. I don't know. But I was like, this information, like, women need to understand as we learn about their bodies. So we partnered with Simon Fraser, and the first two studies they did, one was a literature review of published
Mhm.
research from 1970 to 2021, which we did the study in 2022. What is out there related to women in running, performance, and footwear? It was
Mhm.
very, very limited. Anatomical information did exist. So what we knew from that study was that women's feet are more pie shaped than men's feet. So it's not that our foot is wider, it's that the ratio of our forefoot to our ankle or our heel is a
Yeah.
bigger ratio than a man's foot, which is more
So it's
rectangular.
like by your toes, like underneath your
Yeah,
toes is wider than your
your
heel.
heel. Yes.
Okay.
And so people will say, oh, women's feet are wider. It's not that women's feet are wider, it's that we're shaped like a pie. And that if you
Mm.
looked at that
For
width of
anyone
the
who's
heel,
not seeing, we're talking about a
and
slice of
a
pie.
pie, yes.
That's what Lindsay, because some people just listen. So I
Oh,
always
no,
try
I
to
talk with
talk
my
through the
hands.
action.
Yes.
Yeah, so do I. So I always try to talk through the action. Yeah.
And our fifth metatarsal, which is your knuckle on your pinky toe, actually sticks out further than
Mhm.
a male fifth metatarsal. Our big toe tends to curve up more. And then, just from a preference perspective, we tend to keep our toenails longer. So we actually need more height in the toe box.
Mhm.
Our heels, as I mentioned, are typically narrower, and that's a real pain point for a lot of women, which is heel slippage. And also, our instep is more rounded.
Mhm.
So we need something that really hugs the instep of our foot. There's also starting to be research out there around the impact of estrogen on joints and ligaments and the elasticity as it fluctuates during your monthly cycle, or
Mhm.
if you're in perimenopause or in menopause, you lose elasticity, and that can create issues with your Achilles, with your ACL, all
Yeah.
those lovely ligaments and tendons that help you be active. So what we were able to take out of that first study was like, okay, what we know is anatomical. There is not a lot of information around there on foam recommendations, on what would you do as your hormones change over your lifetime. What about postpartum? Nothing about menopause. And there seems to be this wave of general metatarsialgia or forefoot pain that happens in
Mhm.
menopause that then can just mysteriously disappear. None of that
Yeah.
was published. We also learned there was this is the one that made me really angry. There was a study
Ready for it.
cited 2016. So it's 2021. It's 5 years from 2016. And there is this study cited in the research we got back from Simon Fraser that said that women have been excluded from research because their hormones are a confounding variable. Basically, we can't control for your hormones. So we're just going to exclude you so we can have a cleaner study. Men's hormones don't fluctuate. And as someone who has taken science, you're controlling variables. Okay, I get it. How do we not have a way to accurately measure women's hormones through large scale scientific research? And I can tell you, even today, it is very, very difficult. We've been trying different ways to measure hormones over different studies. And until like 4 years ago, your option was an ovulation kit. Well, that you have to be a menstruating woman on a regular cycle for that to work. If you are amenorrheic, if you're on birth control, if you're pregnancy, postpartum, then now you're only looking at like this life. And so my mind was blown that, that 2016, it's like, oh, we're just going to exclude women because hormones are too complicated and we need to get research done. That was very upsetting.
Yeah. And honestly, like as someone who worked in research prior to becoming a naturopathic doctor, that was what I did. That's where my passion lies. We hear stuff like that all the time. You're too complicated. You're too complex. You're a variable we can't control. But there's just this absence, I think to your point, there's this absence of desire to find a way. It's just like, okay, cool. Like, no problem. We're just not going to include you, moving on. And one of the things I always say is women need to get more involved in research, which is why I'm so pro all of the grants that are coming out, supporting research in those ways with students and with all these things, is because when you and I hear that, we're like, WT.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. We're moving forward. But lovingly, I think back, I worked in a nutrition and nutraceutical lab, but our neighbors were human kinetics. Right?
Yeah.
Like they were all the bros in there doing their sports stuff. It was great. Loved them. But they would be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So if we are not in the lab doing that work, no one's going to stand up and be like, let's figure this out.
Well, I mean, I've been fortunate to meet a lot of like amazing, fascinating, inspiring people through this journey. And one of the women that I met, she is a Olympian. She is a university professor and she's a track coach. And I was having this conversation with her and she was reminiscing to doing her PhD. And she's like, I did it on men because you have a 4-year window and you need to get the research completed. And she's like, it didn't even faze me. That's just what you did at that,
and get grant money. These things don't pay for themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it was funny watching that light bulb go off in her mind as well. To your point about this, we're unique. The second study, when people tell you you're unique, it's just you. The second study we did was focus groups through Simon Fraser University. One was a group of elite athletes, one was a group of sub-elite athletes, and it was around preferences in athletic footwear and injury. And the biggest aha moment from that research, both for myself and from Dr. Chris Napier, who's our lead researcher, was that the women all came to these focus groups thinking that their stories were unique to them. And as they started talking in these focus groups, they realized that the story was not unique because they'd been told throughout their lives, throughout their practitioners, that this was something that just they were going to have to deal with. And that was really eye-opening for me.
That gives me goosebumps, right? Because how many of you listening have been in that situation where you're told like you're a special little snowflake? I call it special little snowflake syndrome, right?
Yes.
Where you're a special little snowflake. There's no research out there for you. There's no solution out there for you. And I always say, is it that there's no solution or is it that no one's asking the question?
Yeah.
I think like we're in a moment right now, AI or no AI, where you're only as good as the question you ask.
Yes.
And in medicine and research, lovingly, we have been taught to ask shitty questions.
Yes. Or
And
that,
I
yeah, the
think,
question's too hard. We can't deal with
yes,
that question. Yes.
exactly. And I think we're in this era right now that I'm very excited about. Like, I have 2 boys, but about my kids, your daughters, like learning to ask really good questions and
Yes.
living in a world where they know if they ask a better question and they get a better output. I think that's one of the huge positives of AI no one is talking about
Yeah,
is
it's a
as
really
a
good point.
researcher.
Yes.
Yeah, like as a researcher, as someone who works in the world of health and research, I have known my whole professional career that if you ask the right question and you can find that answer, you can do anything. And
Yeah.
I have taken that into my practice with patients, just asking the same question 10 ways until you get the answer you need. And they're
Yeah.
like, yes.
Yeah.
Doing it in research, coming up with new hypotheses. Like there's a whole bunch of shifts that have happened since the pandemic in women's health. And so I just keep asking questions to piece together the answer. And I
Yes.
think our kids are going to contribute so much to this conversation because they're going to ask phenomenal questions and be able to have different resources easily available to them. That's a total aside, but
No, I hadn't thought about AI in that way, but it's 100% true. Your prompt, what you put in, is gonna
it's what you get
dictate
out.
is what you get out. And I think too, there's just so much more information available now, particularly about women and particularly about women's health. And there's been a lot of advancement, even though I think we would all say we're not where we want to be in terms of equity, whether it's career or sport, that the younger girls are noticing. And they'll, well, why isn't there a woman running in that election race? Why? We were watching the Breakpoint on Netflix. And okay, so it's a tennis show on Netflix. So it follows both female and male tennis players. And it was great. So it got to the end of the series and the men's final, the ATP final, and then the women's ATP final is in a different location. So they start with the men's final. It is in Italy. There is a red carpet gala. Like
I can see what's coming. Yep.
Yeah. So my kids are like, wow, that's so cool. That's amazing. You know, they love tennis. And then pan to Dallas to this brick building. And my girls were like, why aren't the women in Italy? Why are the women in Texas, Mom? And then the court was purple. And they're like, Mom, why are the women playing on a purple court in Texas? And the stands weren't filled.
Empty. That's what I was going to say. Small stadium, no one in it. It's like WNBA 2.0.
It was, you know, and I don't know that it would have been, people would have seen it before, but I don't know that, like, I think girls now are like, that's not good enough. And I think, you know, we're helping them see that and stand up for themselves like that. So I think that generation is going to ask better questions and also have a higher expectation of the way that they're treated, which is a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think we're going to see so many positives in so many ways come out of it. And we're seeing that now. I very much lived half of my life hardcore in the business world. And we see that women-owned businesses are being recognized as more successful. They're less funded, but when they are funded, they are more successful. They are more thought out. Like there's all of these
They're more
statistics
profitable.
that are
Their cash management's better. It's
exactly
all of this stuff is starting to come out. And we're starting to see shifts in equipment for women in sport, in viewership of women in sport, but there's such a long way to go. I mean, you mentioned socks earlier on in the I mean, it shouldn't have shocked me, but I had this call with a podiatrist out of New York a couple of years ago, and she's like, well, when are you going to solve socks? And it never, even though I knew that shoes were designed for men, I hadn't put it together to be like, oh, right, they're also designing socks for men, and that also contributes to our forefoot issues.
I was buying, and so actually we'll have this conversation offline because I have a lot of marketing for you. But just in this journey and like looking through things, I was looking at different wide toe box shoes and looking at all the different options. And so I was texting my friend who also has the toe pain, and she's like, "Are you going to wear them without socks?" I was like, "Ew." Like I'm not one to love sweaty foot. Like I'm not
I
a
like
foot
socks
person.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, "Well, if you put socks on your feet, it's going to squish your toes."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" When I'm in the healthcare world, it's just like, oh
No.
my God, you're right.
I-
You're right. So it's so funny how you don't even think through
You don't even
these
think
things.
about it. You don't even,
Yeah.
I mean, our shoes are transparent, some of them. And so I was buying really cute stance socks to wear.
Yeah.
Never in a million years did I think that the stance socks were contributing to my foot pain. And I went over, there's a store behind my house called Lady Sport. They're awesome. Phil, who owns it, is a huge supporter. And he's like, "Well, Lindsay, you know, you're wearing the wrong socks." And I was like, "What?" And then he like
Yeah.
brought me to the sock wall, and I was like, "This
Yeah.
is crazy town." I never thought about that. And another side, I had a call with an equestrian athlete this morning who we have a Hettas supported athlete program. And we support, like, you don't have to be a runner to receive shoes and apply to be part of it. And I was talking to her, and she's like, "Well, saddles are made for men." And that's why so many female equestrians have hip issues.
I was going to
And
say, in the SI pain and all that stuff.
yes, so now she's like, there's one model now available for women. There's 8 for men, so you can adjust it. But she goes, there finally is one saddle. Like this is so pervasive and deep across sporting equipment. Shoes is definitely a part of it, but any part of equipment that you're using with your body, you know, is just it's been designed and tested on based on men.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Today's episode is brought to you by none other than Advanced Women's Health. If you are interested in diving in deeper to your health, if you are finally ready to feel like yourself, and you are finally over hearing everything's normal, everything's fine, and you want a deeper dive into your healthcare, then we are here to help you. We are currently helping patients in British Columbia and Ontario, Canada. But don't worry, if you're in another province, still reach out, get added to the wait list as we expand coast to coast. We cannot wait to work with you. Check out the show notes for more information on how to get started.
So then walk me through the components of your shoes, like specifically. What do we have? What are the highlights? What do we need to know that set it apart and make it different?
We wanted to build a performance running shoe. Our target market was that group of women behind the elites in a race. So they're running 3 or more times a week. They have a training plan. They may or may not have a coach. They're part of run clubs. We wanted to start with a very technical shoe to prove our credibility.
An avatar. I love it.
Yeah. And also I felt like shoe companies that did exist, there are a few that were more female focused, were just softer, and they were shying away from that. We can play hard, we can be competitive, but we can also have amazing community. And I think that's what's wonderful about women and women in sport. So we wanted to use high-end foaming technologies. We wanted the shoes to be plated. We wanted the materials on the upper to be advanced. Building a running shoe with sustainable materials is very challenging because the sustainable materials are way more. And if you're building a performance shoe, you want it to be light. So we went for durability. How can we create less waste? People typically buy running shoes every 3 months. We did not want that to happen, which might sound crazy because you're like, well, it's less sales. And it's like, yes, but you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to get a product that lasts longer, and we're going to create less waste in this world, which is a good thing.
I say that all the time. I'm like, you can go somewhere else for 10 appointments, or you can come here for 3. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get the job done. Let's do it. Yeah.
We had a big discussion around carbon plates, which are on most of the super shoes. And women, so we wanted to do testing on plates. Well, the first thing that came out is there's no women's force profile that's published. So if you want to do
so when you're talking about force, you're talking about the impact of their foot hitting the ground, right?
Both the force that you hit the ground with and the amount of ground contact time. So we had to create our own force profile. Women hit the ground with less force than men, not surprising. We also have less ground contact time, so we churn our feet faster. So that then
makes sense.
impact,
We do
that
everything
faster. That impacts then how you're using your foot, how your shoe's going to wear. And so our philosophy or hypothesis was that carbon plates will be harder for women to engage than men. We have less force. We are hitting the ground quicker, like with less time to engage that plate. Let's look for other plates that will be better on our bodies. So there was starting to be research around carbon plates and joints, et cetera, and just knowing what we knew from skis and the stiffness of a ski and how it could affect you, we were sort of drawing from that experience. So with Simon
So
Fraser,
just to rewind for people who don't know, what is the plate and what's the function of the plate? So
it's energy return. So how fast are you going to spring off into your next step and conserve energy, because the plate is going to do work instead of your body. So it can help you run faster, longer. Jury was out on, is that going to impact your joints? Are women getting the same benefit from men? So we took the stance that we know we don't know this yet, but our hypothesis is that the carbon plates are not great for women. And so we are going to try different plate materials so that women can still get a performance shoe. It's going to be easier on their joints. And we wanted to create more stability. The carbon plated shoes you can't mold a carbon plate, so it's flat. And they're usually embedded in very, very soft foam, which is kind of wobbly. So it is harder to be stable in a carbon plated shoe. You can more easily roll your ankle, etc. We were testing two different materials, and we chose a material called Pebax. Pebax is commonly used in high performance running shoe foams. And the reason it's used is it has a very high elastic rebound properties. So, it's going to get you bouncing, and that plate, it's going to help you hit the plate and engage and come out. The downside to Pebax in a foam is it packs out very, very quickly. So you're going to spend $300 and something on a pair of super shoes, and they're going to pack out really fast. And now that the carbon plate is in it, you can't recycle it because carbon plates are not recyclable. So we said, but the Pebaxes. So we said, well, what if we took that Pebax? I wonder if it'll have those responsive properties in the foam, and we'll pair it with also a responsive foam, but something with a longer life. We did a lot of testing with Simon Fraser. You can also mold the Pebax. So our shoe, you can actually see the plate edge around the shoe. The Pebax is molded to hold your heel in. And our hypothesis around that was also it will help with energy disbursement. When you hit the Pebax, instead of the energy returning directly up your joints, which is something that it would in a carbon plated shoe, that our hypothesis was the shape of the plate will disperse the energy outside of your joints. And now we're looking at how do we bring that back into the research, because we've had a lot of women anecdotally through emails, through reviews, through messaging me on LinkedIn, are relieved of pain. And we're like, okay, we had this hypothesis. We're getting this response. We now need to tie it back into the research to confirm that, okay, this is behaving the way we thought it was going to behave. And that's something we're working with Simon Fraser on right now. Okay, here are all these reviews. Cool. How do we test this and put some science behind it so it's not just anecdotal? The bottom of our shoe it's called supercritical foaming. So there's two types of foam, compression foam or supercritical foam. The compression foam is cheaper. You basically create this big bed for a shoe and squish it into your shoe size. And so you have to use more fillers, different types of substances. It's not a pure polymer. Also, because you're taking something large and squishing it, you end up with inconsistencies in the way the firmness of the shoe is, which is why if you're wearing compression foam, and this is something good for people to understand when they go and buy shoes, it may feel different, even though it's the exact same shoe than your last pair. Because as good as the technology is, you're still compressing something.
Right.
Supercritical foam is a pure polymer. It's a single polymer. It's more easily recyclable because there's not bad stuff in it.
Yeah, there's not
And
like a ton of things. It's just one thing. Yeah.
it's one
Yeah.
thing, and it's kind of blown up like a balloon. So you start with this little package, and then picture someone like blowing it up into the shape of the midsole within this mold. And what that allows is for more consistency across it. The polymer is able to even out in the way that it sits, so you're going to have a more consistent experience shoe to shoe. That it actually takes less energy. So you're buying a shoe that is environmentally, through its production process, better for the environment, and it's recyclable. And so
Very cool.
that's how we built the base of our shoe and then worked with Simon Fraser to test it. For the upper material, honestly, my mission was to have something that your toe wouldn't poke through. The number of women that I
So
know that
many people. Yeah.
have to replace their shoes because their toes poke through. And we use a TPU mesh on the upper. It's very thin and it's very strong. It also has memory, so it adapts to the shape of your foot. And I wanted to make sure there weren't any pressure points for bunions. As someone with
Yeah.
bunions, there's certain shoes I put on and I can't wear because it hits right on my bunion. And so that sort of thought, as well as the heel cup, how do we take pressure off the Achilles? So we made a really untraditional heel cup. Now it's more common in the market, but it's typically on shoes that cost $300 or more now. When we came out with this heel cup, we got a lot of pushback from stores. Who is this new shoe brand using this weird material? And there's no heel cup,
Yeah.
which is typically plastic. And now if you look at the top On shoe, the top Adidas shoe, the top Hoka shoe, we're all using the same material. We all have the same heel cup, but ours
So
were designed for
interesting.
women. But it took the bigger brands getting it to market for wider acceptance in the material and the heel cup structure. But the heel cup structure is probably the place we get and the curved plate, sort of that force not hitting your joints, are where we get the most positive feedback.
Amazing. And they do feel very different. As someone who's worn those shoes, when you right away, you put them on and you're like, this is different.
Different.
So I love that you explained, because obviously when I felt them, I'm like, oh, you're like Pepsi, right? You're
Yeah,
like, oh.
you are.
But
It's just, yes.
now it's very cool to be able to understand that like force and direction. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, they're meant
Yeah.
to help you move forward, but the P-Bax plate helps you. It's not as rigid as a carbon plate in the front of your foot, so it's also not forcing a gait pattern. So with the carbon plated shoes, they force the gait pattern because they're so tough.
Yeah.
P-Bax allows for more forefoot motion, which particularly if you have forefoot issues, is a bit more freedom. We're also building a shoe right now where we don't have the plate in the front of the shoe. So it's complete. So you still get that plate in the back. It's still going to provide the stability and the rebound, particularly for people who are heel strikers when you run or you hit the ground with your heel. And then the toes will be just on foam and it's a lot softer. And it was actually developed. We have an elite athlete on our team, Rachel Cliff. She was the Canadian marathon and half marathon record holder in 2019. She had an extreme Achilles injury that was gaslit and misdiagnosed for 4 years.
Yeah.
She finally had surgery in 2022 when she was working with us, and they discovered that her Achilles was hanging on by a thin piece.
Yeah.
And her medical team asked us to take the plate out of the front of the shoe to help her in her recovery. So we made Rachel a half-plated shoe, and she was like, "This is amazing." So then we made a few more half-plated shoes. We're like, maybe this is just like, why is there just a shoe for Lindsay? Why is there just a shoe for Rachel? Let's get this on more feet. And so, part of what we're doing is opening this up so you still get the benefit of the plate in the back and you can have a softer forefoot. And the people who want the full plate, still available, but creating more optionality.
That's so key. I love that. And so with that journey of building this business, right? Like navigating this space, what would you say have been the biggest takeaways for women's health? Like, what are the things that surprised you? You're like, okay, I have all these women wearing these shoes. Yes, we expect them to have a bit less toe pain. Sure. But what have some of the things been that you're like, that makes sense, but surprised you?
I didn't expect the relief from Achilles injury and ankle injuries to
Yeah.
be what people are telling us. It genuinely, I mean, you have this idea, I want to make something that helps people, but the notes, from everybody from elite athletes to everyday runners have genuinely overwhelmed me with just like, wow, this product is actually making a difference. And at the same time, there's frustration with the wholesalers, like trying to sell it through
Yeah.
retail stores where you're selling to a retail store that's then training their hourly staff. And there's an inability to have the message,
Yeah.
like a game of telephone, passed down. Like, why? Like this is clearly making a difference. How do we get this out into the world and have people want to
I
participate
hear
in
you.
it? Yeah. So that's been like both a surprise on the good side and a surprise. Like we thought our main channel was going to be through specialty run stores, and we have some amazing specialty run partners. But
Yeah.
why do women need a shoe? Isn't there already a brand doing that? And I like to say choice is not a luxury. Like women
Yeah.
should have options. I've also had
Absolutely.
people tell me our product is too niche, and I'm like, women are 50% of the population and actually make up more than 50% of runners today, and they're 63% of the shoppers in specialty run stores.
Yeah.
So, we have a shirt that says women aren't niche, and it
I love that shirt. Yeah.
came from like, I can't believe that this is the response and and incredulity behind it. I think the number of athletes and the number of people who have wanted to support us and have done things pro bono for us has blown my mind. I did not expect that level of support, both from the Vancouver business community, this amazing media company in Vancouver, Magnifier. Their clients are Lululemon, Arc'teryx, Red Bull, did our brand video for free because
Oh,
they
amazing.
believed, like they did 4 days of shooting, they wrote script, they edit, like that would have cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. And they just
Yeah.
did it because they believed in what we were doing and they wanted to story tell. There's
Yeah.
several things like that have come up, and people coming out of the woodwork to support us with investment, raising money as a female founder for a female specific brand. You're pitching
Yeah.
a lot of men, and I love Canadians. The appetite for risk in Canada is lower.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to overcome not just this hurdle of you're pitching to someone who doesn't necessarily believe there's a problem. You're also
Yeah.
pitching to someone whose risk tolerance is lower than perhaps their American counterpart.
Yeah.
So it's all sorts of surprises, like where you thought you were going to get support, you're not, but then support pops up in this other
Yeah.
way. So I have this saying, like, follow the energy. And so
Yeah.
I just like, where is the energy coming from? We're going to go that direction. And I'm not spending my time pushing rocks. As soon as something starts to
Yeah.
feel like I'm pushing a rock up a hill, that is the wrong choice.
Yeah. It's so funny. And I think this is why I love talking to other female founders. I have a necklace. I'm not wearing it right now, but it says trust,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, there's just such a deep knowing that I personally think to run a female focused, female led business, you have to trust yourself. And
Yes.
you have to fundamentally make decisions that people will tell you make no sense, are not profitable, are bad for the business,
Yes.
because it will give you something good on the other end. But the number of times I have made incredibly challenging decisions that do not make sense on a profit and loss statement that have given me back so much more than I ever could have imagined
Yeah.
because I trusted. You eventually build your tolerance around it. But
Yeah.
you're right. Like there's so many things that on paper logically make sense. You're like, this person will support me. This will make sense. This
Yeah.
will happen. And they will blatantly look you in the eye and say no. And
Yeah.
I have been very, very fortunate. We haven't taken any private equity funding. I haven't gone that way because I'm a control freak. And I have bankers that deeply support what I'm doing. And they're like, okay, we'll figure this out. We'll support you. And we've been able to run on the capital from the business. Like I'm very grateful for that. But at the same time, that comes with its own stressors too.
Yeah.
And I think we don't talk about that as much in this community. And
Yeah.
it's just such an important thing because I just recently heard a statistic that since COVID, we have seen a drop in investment in female-run companies from 3% to 1.3%.
Yes.
The average
Yes.
funding is 1.3%. And we talked about earlier that women run more profitable companies.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
I equate it, it's funny. I've spent a career first in accounting and then in technology, very male areas.
Yeah.
I worked in mining, I worked in forestry. I have never gone into a room and felt that I was treated differently because I was female. So I went into this process, and Kyle and I knew going into this that we were not going to fund this ourselves. It was never the intent that I why would I think people would talk to me differently or ask different questions or be more discriminatory against me. It had never occurred. And this was the first time I was like, I remember coming off a call and I said to Kyle, I feel like I'm in the 1950s and I'm getting
Yeah.
a car loan. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
where's your husband to sign?
Yeah.
Because that stat, that 1.3 actually goes up to between 20 and 30% if there's one male co-founder,
Yeah. Wow.
which is crazy. And we've come to the conclusion that VC money, I don't think is the right money for us. We've
Yeah.
been really fortunate with family offices in Vancouver, and we're actually going to do a crowdfunding campaign in the
Amazing.
fall, which I'm really excited about. And we've had amazing support from individuals that I hopefully don't have to go the venture capital route. Because I don't think that the interests are with the founders. I think the stakeholder alignment with that type of money is with your LPs because they have taken money from individuals. And the founder is secondary to who they raise their fund with. Whereas a family office, if you're fortunate to be able to go that route, banks, if you can get bank financing, like we were fortunate to have financing through BDC and BMO.
Yep. BMO's been great.
Yeah. BMO's been amazing. BMO gave
Shout
us
out
a
to
free
Ryan's.
booth.
All of
Yeah.
my Ryans.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Damon. Like BMO actually just featured us, Hettas, this month. So if you go into Canadian Business Magazine, BMO, we're their company that they're highlighting for this quarter. And they've been unbelievably supportive. Gave us a booth at the BMO Marathon for free. How can we support you?
amazing.
How can we help you? And you don't expect that from a larger bank, but I think things are starting to shift.
I love that. So then how have you maintained your health in this journey? Because I know it's not easy. And I'm incredibly grateful that I have the knowledge I have and I have the community I have. So when I have those breakdown to breakthrough moments, I have people to call. But I always say, like, I have to be intentional every day about my health because similar to you, if we walk into a room, we're in pain, we're exhausted, we look like crap, we feel like crap, people are going to look at you and say, like, you're a health brand. So
Yeah.
like health isn't optional for us. So what have you done to maintain your health?
It's hard. So I play a lot of tennis, and I'm fortunate to live really close to where I play tennis. And I block my calendar 2 to 3 days a week between 11 and 1, and I play tennis at lunch. In the summer, it's great because I get vitamin D. I usually will play doubles a couple times a week, which makes it social. So if I'm working from home, in that an hour and 15-minute court time. I can get my social fill. I can get sun. Not in the winter months, at least you don't have to deal with the rain because they
Yeah.
put bubbles up, and I can get some exercise. So like maintaining those I'll find that the weeks where I don't have at least 2 tennis games
Yeah.
are a lot harder. I have a Peloton at home, which was a COVID, situation. And the 20-minute rides, I used to try and be like, oh, I have to do a half-hour ride. No, you know what? I can convince myself, like, I can find 20 minutes at any time of the day to get on the bike. But as soon as mentally I say it's half an hour, it becomes a block. So I realized this. And so
Yeah.
now I try to do 4 to 5 20-minute rides a week. And no matter how tired I am, I can choose a recovery ride, but I need to move my body. And so having those pieces in place to move my body, and then making sure that I am going to the osteo once a month. Like today,
Yeah.
I have a massage appointment at the end of the day, just making sure I've got the health pieces that I need, that I don't delay doing my mammogram because I don't have time.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Go get your mammogram.
Oh my God, that's me with the dentist. Don't even look at me.
I just, but all those appointments are hard to fit
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and you're balancing a lot of things, and sometimes things get delayed. Like, yes, I was a month late for my mammogram, but I picked a month and I was like, okay, August is going to be health month. I'm going to do my mammogram and I'm going to do my dentist, and
Love that.
and just, yeah, I don't know, it's hard. But if I don't do it, I turn into a nutcase. I need to be
Amen.
functional. Yeah.
Yeah. I know I say that all the time. So for me, I always say worst case scenario, I do walking meetings. So many meetings, so
Yes.
many things we do not require us to be sitting on our
No,
butt.
no, walking
And
meetings
so,
are great.
yeah, walking meetings, whether that's outside or inside, I have a walking pad right here, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do that. Just, I have a reformer in my house,
Oh, that's
right?
amazing. Yeah.
It has changed my life in terms of,
Yeah.
I had a birth injury, I have endometriosis. My SI joint literally would just pop out of place. Like the
Yeah.
capsule would just, and so I kept looking at, okay, well, I can't make time to drive across town, do an hour Pilates. That's a 2-hour block in my
Yes.
day.
Yes.
And so I was just like, listen, Sarah, your health has to be a priority, right? And so you get
Yeah.
those things in your home. We have a gym in our home. I
Yeah.
didn't like it down there. So I got new lights.
Yeah.
Guys, like, look at the little obstacles, the
The
stories
little-
you tell
Well,
yourself.
like the 30-minute ride to the 20-minute ride. And so I had to have surgery earlier this year, which was hard. I had to have it. I got to pick the date, but it still meant I was going to be offline for a month to 6 weeks. And so when I was allowed back to exercise at the 6-week mark, the surgeon had been like, you can do low impact and recovery rides on the Peloton. And he said, just do 20 minutes. So that started my 20-minute journey. And so I'm now 8 weeks into this 20-minute a day journey, and I'm realizing how much pressure I was putting on myself to do a 30-minute ride, and how that was actually delaying me from like getting on the bike or putting it off.
Yeah.
And so like an unexpected gift of this surgery is like, oh wow, this, like, I can do 20 minutes 5 days a week. Like last night I did it at between 6 and 6:30, and we ate dinner at 7:15. That was okay. You know?
One of the things I've done too is I will get in my head and I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to do today. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so I will not set a time limit for myself. I'll be like, okay, listen, just go again, just go. Whenever you spin out in your brain, you can come back. But the active movement calms you down.
Yeah.
The active movement clarifies your thoughts.
Yes.
The active movement lowers your cortisol and allows you to be more present and focused and get a dopamine hit.
Yes.
And so I've taught myself that if you just put your effing shoes on and go, then you will get, whether you end up going for an hour and taking a call, or whether you end up going for 10 to 15 minutes and coming back because you need to. Just the act of getting into motion creates so much clarity. that
Oh,
you will
yeah.
always get back more than you give. And
Yeah.
it's just a constant reminder for me. It's the same with nutrition, right? If I
Yeah.
decide to eat like crap, then I am always going to pay for that. And if I decide to eat healthy, I am always going to get back more than I give in the mental effort it took to plan the soup and the protein as opposed to just ordering something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. It's that we create these mental barriers that you just kind of have to push through it once to
Yeah.
see the difference. And then you're like, oh, I created this constraint. It wasn't actually real.
Yeah. I always say that to, again, I deal with a lot of high performers in my practice. And I always say, is this a story you're telling yourself or is this true?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the distinguishing factors I find is that for so many of us who quote unquote accomplished a lot of things, really the only difference is we can get past our own bullshit really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I won't take more of your time. I know we've gone over a couple minutes here, but honestly, it's just been such a gift to chat with you. And I have loved every minute of it. I am sure so many people are going to be so excited hearing more about Hettas, trying out shoes. I know you are available online and in some specialty retailers. Is there any consistent ones? Because obviously we've got patients all over Canada.
There's at the bottom of the website, there's a specialty, find a fit specialist, specialty
Amazing.
list. There's one in Kingston, Runner's Choice, Run Parlor in London and Clinton, Runner's Soul in Lethbridge, Fast Tracks, which turns into a ski shop in Edmonton. So it's only 6 months of the year. And then in Vancouver, Lady Sport, the Run In, and Forerunners North Shore. So yeah, there's a variety of places, but we do a 90-day free trial for online. We want this to be risk-free for you. It's free returns, free exchanges. We know it's hard to try something new, particularly when you're buying online, and we want to take away those barriers and just try the shoes. And if you don't like them, you can send them back, and they end up in a demo fleet. So they don't go to waste. We then use them in demo fleets that we send around the country.
Oh, I love that so much. And I know you've got a code, so that's in the show notes for anyone who wants to try Hettas as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I just can't thank you enough. I think these conversations are so important to have. And I love highlighting people who are committed to women's health in this way. So thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had as much fun as we did. And if you loved today's episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. That is how we spread this message, and that is how we are going to revolutionize healthcare in Canada for women. Have a beautiful day and be well.